Hi, welcome back to today's class. We'll be looking at the concepts of production possibility curve and international trade, right? So that was actually the essence of trying to like create this particular class. Because I came across an interesting question. I love interesting questions. I love questions that make you think. And so I came across an interesting question. I was like, okay, let me do a video on this. And, you know, I said, okay, let me start from the beginning. So not just jump into the question without having a foundation. So we are trying to trace the foundational parts of, PPC and international trade. So I'll be looking at what is PPC, like what does it mean? So PPC is simply an acronym for Production Possibility Curve, right? Another name for PPC is PPB, that is the Production Possibility Boundary. Another name for the PPC is the PPB, that is the Production Possibility Boundary, like don't pass your boundary, that kind of a thing, right? And another name for it is also the Transformation Curve, right? So it could be called Transformation Curve, it could be called the Production Possibility Curve, it could be called the Production Possibility Boundary. I think it still has another name or something like that. Now, what does it mean, right? So the PPC is basically a curve that shows the different combinations of two goods that are produced in an economy or that can be produced in an economy given the economy's level of economic resources and technology, right? So I have it on the board here in case you want to write. A PPC is a curve that shows the different combinations of two goods that a country can produce given its economic resources and level of technology. So all of this may look like, oh wow, it's a very long thing, right? So it's okay. So let's go back once again. A PPC is a curve. This is a curve that shows the different combinations. So now that is you can have different, you can combine the production of the two bits you are looking at in two ways. So for example, we have good y here, like y representing the y-axis and x representing the x-axis. So if you're writing your coordinates in mathematics, you write them in form of x and y. You remember your Cartesian plane. So on this part now, the combination here is you are producing 0 of good x and 4 of good y. So this is 0, comma 4 in that way. Then in this place, you are producing 30 of good x, 30 of good x, and then you are producing 3 of good y, right? So if you come here, you are producing 40 of good x, 40 of good x, and then you are producing 2 of good y. And then if you come to this part, you are producing 45 of good x and 1 of this one. Then if you come to this point here, you are producing 50 of good x and 0 of good y. So it says a PVC is a curve that shows different combination. This is a combination, this is another combination like that. Different combinations of two goods, one good here, one good here, right? Of two goods in a country, right? Given the country's economic resources, what are the economic resources? Land, labor, entrepreneur, and capital, right? Every other thing falls under those ones. And the country's level of technology. Simple. So that's it, right? That's it. So now, what are some of the features of a PPC? Some features of a PPC. The features, okay, of a PPC. Okay, number one, it is concave to the origin. That is, it's looking as if it's looking like a pregnant woman, right? So it is concave to the origin. So number one, it is concave to the origin. Do I really need to write all of these things? Right. So safe to say that it is downward. If something is concave, concave is it? Well, it's downward sloping, so you can also say it is downward sloping, right? It's not every time that it is concave, though, right? So sometimes it might be a straight line, it can also be a straight line. But we'll get to that number. Then number two, the farther it is from the origin, right, the more is the productivity. The farther is the PPC from the origin, from the origin, the greater the productivity. The greater the productivity. For example, so let's say something is making, you also have another PPC. So you can just kind of extend this. Let's say we are extending this guy. So maybe here, we're extending this person to this part. We are extending this person to this part and maybe on and on like that. So here we'll be having another PPC, something like that. So now here, you will still be having 3 of good y. But if you kind of trace this guy down, we're having about 55 of good x and 3 of good y. If you come here, you kind of trace this person down, he's already far more than far above 50. So we're having like 63 of good x, and then you're still having 2 of good y. And then if you come to this part, when you try to extend this guy down, this is where 50 is stopping, extend it down. Might be having like let's say 72 of good x and then 1 of good y. So that is what it means, that the final. So it means that this second PPC now is a better PPC compared to the first one, right? Because on this PPC you have an improved productivity. That is, you are able to produce at least one more of the other commodity, right? Without reducing the amount of the first commodity that you were producing. So here you are producing 3 of these. So for you to have, if you look at this part now, the first curve, for you to have 30 more of good x, you had 0 of it initially. For you to have 30 more, you have to give up 1 of good y. How do I mean? Former the good y was 4, and then now it is 3. So 4 minus 3 is 1. So for us to get 0 plus 30, that for us to get 30 of 1 of 30 of good x, you have to give up 1 of good y. Now for us to get 10 more, from 30 to 40, for us to get 10 more of good x, we have to give up 1 more of good y. For us to get 5 more of good x, we have to give up 1 more of good y. So on and on like. So for us to get more of one commodity, we have to be like getting less of the other commodity. But if you look at a new curve here, you're able to get more of good x, right, 55, without reducing the amount of good y that you're able to produce. Okay, then the same thing here, more of good x without reducing, so on and on like that. So that's why we say this one is more. So the farther away the PPC is from the origin, the better it is. The better is the level of productivity in the country. So you can produce more of a commodity without reducing the amount of the other commodity that you're producing. Okay, then number 3, all points on the PPC are efficient. All points on the PPC are efficient. So which means all these combinations, as long as they are on the PPC, maybe I should just draw another one here. So if you have a PPC like this, so if this is point A, point B, point C, all those points are efficient. They are telling that for you to produce A, B, and C, then that means you are making the best use of all of your resources, right? The best use of all of your resources. So if you are in a point E, or if you are at a point E here inside, so this is inefficient. It is attainable. Like it's possible for you to produce at this level, but you producing at this level simply means that you are not making the best use of your resources, right? So this is an inefficient point. Even though it is attainable, it is possible to produce it or feasible to produce it. Now, if you have a point Z outside here, a point Z outside there, right? So that point, although it is desirable, like you would have preferred to like produce here, just like what we had here before this curve, shifted, before we like indicated a new curve there. But this point cannot be on your PPC, your old PPC, right? It can't be there, right? Why? Because whatever point you have on this PPC is already telling you you're already doing the best that you can do, right? You're already efficient. So like, what more can you have if you're already efficient? So point Z is desirable, like you would have loved to have it, but you cannot have it. So point Z is a non-feasible, combination, right? Non-feasible. It is not also efficient, right? Simply because it is not on your PPC. Point E is attainable but not efficient. Point Z is unattainable, right? Though desirable, unattainable and not efficient. So points A, B, C's, they are all efficient and feasible. Do you understand? So like that settles that. Now this slope, the slope of the PPC, is called the marginal rate of transformation, MRT, the marginal rate of transformation. So in case I just ask, calculate the slope of the PPC. So or calculate the marginal rate of transformation of the PPC. So it's simply saying that you calculate the slope, right? So it's simply saying that you calculate the slope. Is there anything that I may have left? Okay, then number 5. An outward shift of the PPC denotes economic growth. An outward shift of the PPC denotes or equals to economic growth. So if you have to indicate economic growth on your PPC, what you just have to do is to draw another one outside of it and then put an arrow like this. That's it. So an outward, if it's shifting outside, it's called economic growth. Of course, if it is shifting inside, then that should be an economic decline. All right, that should be an economic decline. All right, so I think that's that about that. Then if you have other features, you can just study them up, right, in your textbooks and all of that. Now, the PPC is drawn under some assumptions. Economics and assumptions, right? The first is that there are only two commodities. Okay, there are only two commodities. That's the first assumption. There are only two commodities, and that is what you have here. There are only two commodities. That's the first assumption. Then number two, economic resources is fixed. All right, or your economic resources are fixed. They are fixed. That is, you have 10 million workers, they can't increase to like 50 million, they can't decrease to like 4 million, like 10 million is 10 million. You have 40 acres of land, it is 40 acres of land all through. Then your capital, stock of capital is like maybe 100,000, then it is 100,000 like that. Then your entrepreneur, right? So you have maybe like 1 million entrepreneurs. So that's just it, right? So there's fixity of economic resources. So it's one of the assumptions of drawing it. So it is when you make the basis of those fixed resources that you are going to be on the PPT. But when you don't make the basis of them, you are going to be within the PPC. And then even after making the basis of them, you can't get outside of your PPC anyway. Okay, so then what other assumption? What other assumption? Only two goods are produced. Then the technology is known and fixed as well. The level of technology that you have, the kind of technology that you have is known. Then it is fixed, like it can't improve or it isn't improving. It is fixed. And then there is full employment. So that is, all of your economic resources are fully utilized. Right. So that's the point. So those are the assumptions. Right. One, only two commodities are produced. Two, your economic resources are, fixed, right? It's fixity of economic resources. Number three, your technology is known and fixed, and then there's full employment of all economic resources. So that's it. Those are the assumptions, right? And then when you put those assumptions together, what you're going to have is a PPT like this, where all points are on it. Okay. So now, what are some of the factors that can make your PPT to shift outward, right? What can make you, so this is an economic growth, right? So it's basically asking for factors that contribute to economic growth. So that's it. So first and foremost, number one, we said there's fixity of economic resources. What if there is discovery of new resources? What if your country never knew that it had crude oil? Then you just discover that it has crude oil, right? In commercial quantity, so definitely the amount of goods and services that your country will be able to produce now that it knows that it has crude oil will be more. So that will shift your PPC, outward. That's one. Then number two, you have immigration. Like no, you have immigration of skilled workers. We said that all of your labor force, all of your factor of production, they are fully utilized. They are at full employment, right? So, but what if you now begin to have the influx of skilled workers into your economy? So they are going to increase your labor force. Do you understand? Then that would make you to produce more goods and services, especially when you also have inflow of more capital. So let's say you have more foreign direct investment. So as you're having immigration of skilled workers, you're also having inflow of foreign direct investment. So that is adding to your level of economic resources. So definitely with more resource now you can do more, can achieve more, provided that you are efficient. So what if there is a better technology, right? If there happens to be a better technology, then we say technology is fixed here. But if there happens to be a better one, then definitely you'll be able to produce much more than you are producing. So I think I wrote a couple of factors. So what if there's training of human capital, or what if there's human capital development? So like there's a retraining of your employees, right? So now they can produce more. That is, it might be in terms of education, it might be in terms of training, maybe on the job training or off the job training or whatever it is that it is called. Then okay, I think I've mentioned the things I could mention here. So what about the things that can cause an inward shift of your PPC? That is what can cause an economic decline of your PPC. So whatever, if you were here initially. So what is going to make you to be here? So what's going to make you to be here now? No, don't mind this. Okay, so this is an economic decline. That'll make it to be there. So definitely the reverse of the first thing. So if there's a decline in economic resources, let's say your pool of crude oil just dried up, and so you don't have crude oil again. So crude oil is no longer part of your economic resources, and other things have not been found. that could replace it. So there's going to be a reduction in what the economy can produce. So productivity of the country, like as an aggregate, is going to decline. So it shifts your people inside. What if there's a war? What if there's a pandemic? Right. So all of the war would destroy your facilities. War would destroy your people. So with fewer resources, you can only produce fewer things. Okay. Then what else can also make you what can make your PPC to shift inward? Okay, what else do I have? What else do I have here? So okay, emigration of your skilled workers. So if your skilled workers are immigrating, they are leaving, their jackpot and there's brain drain, right? So what your country can produce as an economy is also going to like reduce. Okay, so that's that. Now let's even say that your curve was not shifting. Let's say you just have this. This is the PPC, right? You have point A, B, C, then you have point E, and then you have point F. We want to make you to produce at point E. Now your curve is not shifting, right? This is what is, if you are making the best of your resources, what you're supposed to have. But what will make you to be producing within it? Okay. First, you can have underemployment of your resources. If you make the best of your fixed amount of resources now, you're meant to be either on A, B, C, or whatever combination that you might have. It's more than three. So this is there are infinite number of combinations. This is one, this is another one, and I have this on and on like that. So, but if you happen to be underemploying or you are not employing some of your resources, of course you won't be able to produce at the best level. So you're going to be within the PPC. All right. Then the next one is wastage, right? So because we are looking at efficiencies of resources, placing you on your PPC. So if there is wastage, you are wasting some things, right? So you are going to be within your PPC. So that can also make you to be within your PPC, right? So then I think that's just what I have here. You have wastage, inefficiency of resource use, unemployment, underemployment. It can bring you within your PPC and whatever point that you can probably think of, right? So the last concept to explain here is the concept of the opportunity cost. Okay, so there's a good example. This can be any commodity. So you might be asked an examination that draw a PPC and indicates points that are efficient, indicates points that are inefficient, indicates points that are not feasible, right? So like it's just F is here, not feasible, E inefficient but feasible, ABC. Do you understand? Okay, so here I can decide to put bags, yeah, and then I can decide to put guns. I can decide to put any two commodities, right, that you want. Or like usually most I think maybe in textbooks or whatever, we have capital good on one axis and consumer good on the other axis. Okay, so now let us explain the concept of opportunity cost. So opportunity cost is the expression of cost in terms of forgone alternatives. Okay, that's big grammar. Okay. Now, opportunity cost is just next best alternative forgone. Next best alternative forgone. All right. So now if you look at it from moving between here and here now. So a way to get your opportunity cost. Okay, I used to have a formula. Okay, opportunity cost equals loss over gain. So the amount of the other commodity, the amount of the next best alternative that you are using, divided by the amount of the commodity you are gaining. Okay, so if you ask that, what is the opportunity cost of moving from, let me call this point A, let me call this point B, C, and let me call this point D. What's the opportunity cost of moving from point A to point B? Okay, if you look at it, you are getting more of a commodity, you are getting more of good X, 0 to 30, but you are losing a particular amount of good Y. Okay, so what are you losing? That's the first thing. So you are losing from 4 to 3, you lost 1. So loss is 1 of good Y divided by you gain 30 of good X. So this is the opportunity cost. I'm moving from point A to point B. All right. So opportunity cost of moving from point B to point C, right? Then opportunity cost of moving from point C to point D, then point D to point E. You can just calculate that as an assignment and tell me what your observation is, right? Are you expressing an increase in opportunity cost? You are expressing a decrease in opportunity cost as you are moving from left to right on the PPC. So in the next class, we are now going to talk about what I really want to talk about, right? It's a very good question that that relates PPC with comparative advantage and then international trade. Very interesting one. So see you there. Thank you. Bye.